another episode of Root Notes.
Thanks for joining us, y'all.
Yeah.
Wes, since we recorded a podcast last, you spent a good amount of time not going anywhere. A little place we call the DMV.
Oh my gosh, yes. An entire weekend, Friday and Saturday, spent at the DMV to get essentially nowhere. I mean, dysfunction at its finest.
If you aren't from North Carolina or you haven't had a reason to go to the North Carolina DMV recently, let me tell you, he's not just talking about this being dysfunctional. The state auditor just released a report, you can go find it online, that compared the impact of the DMV right now and its dysfunction to Hurricane Helene. So you got up close and personal with a disaster.
There's no doubt about it. Let me just run you through it really quickly. So my daughter is 16. It's time to get that level 2 license, moving from the learner's permit to...
It's a big moment.
It is a big moment, scary moment. It's been very, very scary moments over the last year. But yeah, so there are, appointments available at the DMV 90 days out. If you can get up at midnight when they release, you can get an appointment 90 days out if you're quick on the trigger. It's like the Eras tour tickets. Like they're gone as soon as they hit the computer.
Taylor Swift and the DMV selling out at the same rate.
I'm telling you, I think Ticketmaster is probably running this thing. It's just so dysfunctional. So yeah, man.
It's pretty much just like it was back in the day.
Yeah.
We got ours.
Yeah, no kidding. So there are no appointments unless you're willing to wait 90 days. We have these walk-in hours at certain locations, but I mean, you're going to be in a line, and I didn't realize just how competitive the walk-in hours were. And so I talked to some folks, and I went to one local DMV here, and I got up at 4 a.m. and was at the DMV by 4:30.
Whoa!
Yeah, on a Thursday night. And my wife was going to bring my daughter to me and drop her off once the DMV opens. I got there, and I was not first in line. I was fourth in line.
At 4 a.m.
At 4 a.m., I was fourth in line. And sat there and just waited all night. The DMV opened. We had all of our paperwork. My daughter came. They come outside the DMV, and they start checking the paperwork, and they get to us, and they're like, "You're missing a specific document." So they kick us out of line.
Oh my gosh.
I go back home. I print this document. No. I call the insurance company. They're like, they never asked for this. I don't know what you're talking about.
It was a bad day for you.
Oh,
but
man.
That's just a sad day for your daughter.
It was rough. Yeah. She was devastated because she wanted to get her license.
This is supposed to be a celebration.
Yeah, that's right. We go back and we get in line to become 53rd. Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
We don't have a shot. And so we do stay there 8 hours just on the hopes. In camping chairs, out in the field behind the place, waiting for a text that we'd be in line. By the time they closed, we had 44 people still ahead of us. So we never got it. Now, the next day, is Friday. I got up at 2 a.m. with my daughter and drove to another county and got there at about 2:30 a.m. thinking that we'd be pretty close to the front of the line.
Yeah.
And there are 32 people already lined up.
When
we get there.
If I went to a DMV like at 9 or what, and there were that many people, I'd be like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's 2 a.m.
Yes. The first person in that line got there at 10:30 the night before.
What?
Yeah. So we sat in that line. We commiserated with all the people around us. The line just wrapped around the place. There were 150 people in line by the time they opened.
What?
Yeah. So needless to say, we didn't get in that day either.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So you're 0 for 2.
That's right.
With the good old DMV. Actually, you know what we should do? Listeners, let us know if you think this is a good idea. Let's do next time we decide to go, we'll set up all this equipment. We'll do a podcast. You have plenty of time.
We'll live stream it.
We'll do a podcast.
Yeah, we will live stream it.
First live pod from the DMV.
From the
line.
DMV. And let me tell you, I met so many interesting people at 2:30 in the morning waiting outside.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like brings people together.
It was a really cool experience. Some of the folks had really sad stories. This one lady in front of me, her daughter was about the same age. This was their 11th time trying to get an appointment. They had been from the coast to Boone and everything in between. It's wild. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, well, let's do it. We'll do a podcast from the line at the DMV about systems that don't really work.
There you go.
But anyway, so this story you were starting to tell me, I was like, hey, tell me on the pod. So, but it does remind me though of this really cool, you and I both take being a dad really seriously. This is an important part of who we are.
Sure.
And you've got this cool thing that you have been doing with your kiddos. And it is sort of in the direction of driving and DMV. Talk about the whole U-turn thing that you do with your kids.
Yeah. So obviously U-turns and 3-point turns and all sorts of turns have been a big deal lately. But even before, she was learning to drive, we were in the car one time and she's a teenager and she has bad days because she's a person too, right? Yeah.
Teenagers?
Yeah. And so my wife had asked her a question and she kind of snapped at her. It was a harsh response. It was not an awful response. I have good kids, even when they're even when they're not at their best, they're still good kids. And so
I'm sure you're the worst behaved one in the bunch.
There's no doubt. You can get that verified pretty easily. So anyway, but it was not a good response. It was harsh. And my wife looked at me and gave me this look and I just kind of said, give me a sec. And I asked her, I said, if you could turn around and do that again, would you like to try that? Would you like to take a different approach? Like in a genuine way. I wasn't
you're
angry
not
about
it. You're just saying, hey, look.
Yeah.
You wanna just take a second, take a beat, and try that again.
Yeah, and she recognized it almost as soon as she said it. Like we all had those moments where like something comes out of your mouth, you're like, come back. I just want to, pull that back. And she was real grateful for the opportunity to sort of do that. And so we started calling those U-turns, right? And it became this sort of thing that in my house, in our family, sometimes I need a U-turn. I went too far, and I need some grace, and I need the opportunity to turn around and come back and maybe try again and see if I can get off in the right place.
Now, let me see. So does Laura also give you U-turns?
I'm begging for them all the time. Sometimes they're 3-point turns. Sometimes I'm just putting it in reverse and flooring it.
No, you just spin it in circles. No, but for your kids, I think that, actually, it could work in lots of relationships, I would imagine.
Yeah. I think it has a lot of relevance to what we do every day. I think it has a lot of relevance to what everyone does every day in their profession, certainly in their personal life.
How did you stumble upon this?
So actually, this was one of the things I did years ago. I had a student come to my door, and they were upset. Something had happened, and they actually walked in and just were on fire and saying some stuff and just, and I just kind of listened to them for a second, and I said,
tone was just out of pocket.
Tone was off. They were in brain crisis. Like I recognize when someone is, and so I just.
But it wasn't okay.
No, it's not okay. Yeah. And I said, listen, I'm gonna suggest that you go back out and start over. I want to talk to you. I want to hear this. I want to help you, but I think you need another shot at this. Yeah. So that was the first time I ever did it, and it really did diffuse the situation. They went out. They got some water. They chilled out a little bit. Came back. We had a great conversation. Excellent outcome. That sort of thing.
Wow.
And so that's the first time I did it, and it just kind of hit me in the moment. I'm like, "Hey, you want to try again?" And not in an adversarial way.
Yeah.
Like some people would say, "Start over." That's not what we're talking about here. Like
legitimately, like, hey. We could try this again.
Yeah, like let's try it again.
Yeah.
And so that was the first time, and that was years ago. And so Laura called it a moment of parenting genius, which I don't get many of those.
Wow. That's credit. Get the credit from your wife.
I'll take that win anytime I can.
Being in the sentence.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. So U-turns. Yeah, we take U-turns, and I think it has some relevance for us in leadership, in education, in public health. And so I thought we'd talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So in terms of leadership, it's really clear to me that it might be relevant in trying to just manage the situations you deal with when you're leading any sort of team.
Yeah.
But what were you sort of thinking about there?
Well, so we live in this sort of it's never okay to be wrong, right? And there's this pressure for this accountability. And we end up in this place where it's almost dangerous to admit when we didn't get it quite right, or the idea that I would ask for a do-over in some way is considered failure and weakness. I mean, there's some pretty terrible.
If it's even thinkable, like I'm kind of wondering if many of us would even think about saying, "Hey, could I try that again?"
Yeah, and I mean, there's social media has so much of this sort of terrible sort of leadership stuff out there, right? Like it's just, macho, just ridiculous. I was actually really disappointed recently. There's this guy I follow on Instagram, and I generally like his stuff a lot. I do. But he was telling this story. He was working with an organization. He does some facilitation and coaching, and I guess that kind of thing. And he was talking to a CEO, and he said the CEO told him recently that they had a team that had accomplished a project, had done really good work. It was very successful. And so they celebrated that, but they called the manager of the team in, and he said, I always ask the managers one question. Tell me to the person what they contributed, how they used their skill sets to overcome specific problems and obstacles. And if they don't give me an answer that I think is detailed enough, I fire them.
What?
Now, I want you to hear this.
I fire them. I was actually with them for a second.
Right. No, that's a good question to ask.
Yeah,
I fire them because that tells me that the team is successful in spite of the leader, of the manager.
Oh, my.
And I thought, what a just bullheaded way to approach developing folks. Because you're talking about a team that is doing well, that was successful.
Right. What is your touchdown dance? Firing the quarterback.
Firing the quarterback. That's exactly right. I mean, that's like being the manager of the Bulls in the 90s, right? I mean, that kind of.
That's wild.
Yeah. So there's so much bad
it's like
stuff
a
out there.
Pressure cooker that you're creating, right?
It is. It is a pressure cooker. And, we have this sort of aversion to humility for some reason in leadership. You got to be right. You got to be right. No, you don't. No, you don't. You need to be able to move that hubris aside and recognize when you need help, when you didn't get it right, and be brave enough to say, let's back up and ask for the grace you need to be able to make that U-turn. And understand this, not every day you should be asking for a U-turn, right?
It reminds me, Amazon's got these principles. Amazon, the corporation, has these, I don't know how many there are, but there's these principles that they operate by. And one of them is you should be right a lot. And if you hear the first part of that, you should be right. It's sort of like, okay, sort of what you're saying. Like, yeah, I mean, you should, if you're doing what you need to be doing, you're putting the prep in, you're putting the work in, you should be right.
Yeah.
But the word a lot is doing so much work there because it's acknowledging the fact that, we're going to get it wrong.
You are going to get it wrong.
And I've always admired that particular, I mean, there's a lot about Amazon you could raise serious questions about, but that particular principle really resonated with me. Like, be right. A lot.
Yeah. I mean, you've said even on this podcast before that when we're talking about like evidence and that sort of thing and how public health professionals should interpret evidence and be able to bring that back to the community. Like there's a lot of pressure on you to be right about that.
Yeah.
And that is true. You have an ethical, a moral, a professional responsibility to bring your best game, to do your best, to be as right as you can be. But you're going to fall short.
Oh, yeah. That's a great word. That's a great counterpoint to all that.
So when I think about U-turns and I think about leadership, I think there are a couple things. I think one is you need as a leader to be brave enough to ask for a U-turn and build the trust in your team that they can look at you and be confident that you're going to give it your best. And when it falls short, you're going to acknowledge that, back up, ask for help, and engage them in doing that.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I mean, so like one of the first things you're setting up then is that, or if I'm going to lead, then like many things, I want to lead by example.
That's right.
So like I'm going to lead by the example of owning a mistake.
Yeah.
Or even, it doesn't have to be like a huge mistake, but just like, hey, I sent you that email and the tone I really didn't like after I, slept on it.
Yeah.
Please hear me.
Right.
I would like to re-express what I was saying last night. That might be a nice way to handle an email.
That's exactly right. And you have to start normalizing this behavior, and you have to normalize it. The best way to normalize that is through sort of micro course corrections, right? Like if you wait till everything has gone to heck in a handbasket and ask for a U-turn, that's a bigger ask, right? But if you're doing this in smaller ways where they matter and engaging your team and engaging the folks that work with you, it's helpful because it normalizes the behavior to some extent. I'm not telling you every day you should be asking for a U-turn, but I think it's helpful. And I think that as much as it's about normalizing and it's about modeling it, I think it also means that leaders need to start thinking about giving space and grace to make a U-turn, because it's hard to make a U-turn on a one-way street, right? Like you've got to have some space here.
All right.
Like have you ever gone down a one-way street the wrong way, David?
I mean,
I was in the passenger seat. It's happened.
It might have happened.
It's happened. There's no U-turn there.
I don't think I made our U-turn. I think I just kept going.
No. You did go. You did keep going as I freaked out. Like the only thing you can do on a one-way street is back up, right?
Yeah.
So there's got to be space, right? And so that's about creating space and grace to do a U-turn. And so there's lots of sort of implications for this for leaders, but there's also implications for this in the work that we do in public health.
Yeah. As you're talking about this, we laugh a lot on this podcast and we joke around a lot, but, we work in the field of public health, and we've talked about on this podcast, and we certainly have talked about in other places many times, how unhealthy our culture has become in terms of polarization. And when I say unhealthy, I mean literally, like we have talked about the data on the impact of polarization on our health. And that's just like chronically experiencing this. And then there are these things that pop up where these conditions of really polarized society shows up in other ways that are really unhealthy. And, you and I have students who have graduated from our program and work in the CDC. And, a couple of weekends ago, as we're recording this podcast, a shooter was on the campus of the Center for Disease Control, firing away as an expression of the polarization in a pretty significant way. And as you begin to think about this and talk about this idea of like humility creating space for something else to be possible, I think, one of the things that we've got to acknowledge is that our encampments into the polarization makes it really hard sometimes for somebody to feel like it's anything other than a one-way street.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And to that point, if we're trying to build a public health system, because we're in a U-turn moment right now with public health, there's no doubt about it, right? Like we have over leveraged sort of mandates. We've landed in this sort of paternalistic place that's caused a lot of pushback and created this polarization. We've talked about that on the podcast before. What we've got to do is reimagine a public health system, a public health approach at the local level that lets people re-engage, build systems and policies that don't shame people into these camps and make them stay there. Build a community, build a public health system that allows them to re-engage without being sort of punished, right? Like I want to, maybe I'm beginning to think that my stance on vaccines was not quite right, or I've seen something that's changed my mind, but I can't back off of that now.
See, so you just reminded me of something back in 2021. We, Interfaith America, had funded campuses throughout the nation to do this program called Faith in the Vaccines. And they were sending out students and faculty as ambassadors on behalf of the COVID vaccination. And I ended up training some of the campus teams. We had this like webinar training thing. And one of the questions was this. It was like, what if somebody just is, sort of has refused over time? Do we even engage with them?
Right.
And at some level, it is, don't just hit your head against the wall.
Right.
But the thing that I said in that moment that I think is the point that you're making is many of the people in our community have created an identity that is very closely associated with their stance on vaccination or other aspects of health in this public health moment. And the question is that I had for the training is, have we created an opportunity for them to easily let go? Because letting go of your identity for anybody is a challenging thing.
Right.
So how do we sort of create an on-ramp to something else or scaffold to something else? How do we help create space where you can sort of let go or rethink these things? Yeah. And that is the trick. And that was sort of a huge aha moment in the training to go like, hey, if my uncle is on Facebook every day talking about this, the first, that sort of micro change, that micro correction, the first change might not be, hey, let me get my vaccine today.
Yeah, that's right. That's
so
exactly
how do you create
right.
Space for something else.
Yeah. I mean, because, as much as we like to think about our identity as being wrapped up in a label. You and I have joked before about you can drink coffee without being a coffee drinker. I don't know if you remember that conversation.
I definitely do. I think we had a lack of sleep somewhere on the roads in West Virginia.
Yeah, it's very likely. So, you think about it like this. When you start slapping bumper stickers on your car.
Yeah.
Right. To do a U-turn, now people see that car headed back in the other direction and they've still got those bumper stickers on.
Right.
And
so that's powerful. Yeah.
Like, what is happening here?
Can I turn around because I have my bumper stickers say I'm not going to travel in this direction?
That's
and
right.
It goes both ways, man.
Yeah.
That goes both ways. Like I was at a meeting with a bunch of public health leaders and this research will actually be published very soon. Somebody's given us a preview of some research that just looked at, we work in the field. I worked in an emergency operations center. We were making tough decisions every day. And it's almost impossible that you could think that we got it all right.
Oh, of course.
Right?
Yeah.
It's impossible to even come on. But now we also have data that looks at during some of the responses that we had to try to keep people from getting a virus, what are the other things that resulted from that? And the truth is, for instance, with education, there have been some really tough consequences of our policies there. That doesn't make you an evil person.
No.
If you're involved in decisions to lock down schools, you were worried about the safety of kids. I think that's fair. Now, 4 years later, 5 years later, asking the question, hey, what does the data say about this?
Right.
Should be something we're all open to doing.
No doubt.
And what happened in the room was that many of us were open to doing it, but the people who were closest to the power centers really strongly rejected that.
Yeah.
And it was very clear that what was happening is that they felt sort of indicted by that. They felt implicated and they immediately sort of retracted. There was no space for them to go, you know what we were all doing our best. We made some really good decisions. And then it seems that some of these things had implications that we didn't fully anticipate.
That's because we have sort of ingrained into society, the idea of authorities, right? And you can't be wrong when you're an authority. Like you have to be right. That's sort of this expectation. And so we double down on that sometimes in our positions as public health professionals, as scientists. Like what we need to be saying and what we should be saying at all times is, in this moment, the best evidence that we have is this. It's leading us to think this is the best decision we can make now. Is it possible that we find information in the near future, that causes us to make a course correction? Yes. But right now, this is the best advice I can give you.
You know what's wild about that? This is so true in two really different spheres. It's very true in science. This is fundamental to science.
Iteration is science.
The whole idea is there's a claim that seems to be backed up by data, but if there's new data that invalidates that, then we let go of the claim. Right?
That's right.
That's basically.
Yes.
It's also true in faith. How much you and I both grew up in church. How much of church is about forgiveness, repentance. Like these kind of themes in Christian churches are absolutely prevalent.
Right.
And yet, I think you're right. There's been a fairly recent cultural shift away from acknowledging shortcomings
That's
and
right.
being willing to apologize or admit an error.
Yeah, I think it is incumbent upon the public health professionals at all levels to say, you know what? We're going to follow the science, but science means that we iterate. Science means that when we get new evidence, we change course. It means that we change our mind. And so we're not talking about an absolute. People say it's not a perfect science. Science in itself is imperfect. The whole design of science is imperfect.
See, now that you got another phrase that I'm not going to be able to hear the same way.
That's exactly right.
Perfect science. Yeah,
I mean, the whole point is continued discovery, iteration, step by step, and then letting go of hypotheses, generating new hypotheses. We teach fifth graders the scientific method, and then we go out into the world after getting all these degrees and treat science as an absolute truth.
Why are you seeing this? Why do you think I've got a theory?
Why am I seeing this?
Why are you making this case when we're not hearing this in a lot of places? I think it's two things.
Tell me why.
I think the most fundamental thing is that you've spent a career as an educator. And the work of education expects there to be mistakes as a part of the progress that we're involved in.
I guess you're right.
Like you encounter the work that you do, expecting that change over time as a result of learning from mistakes is the work.
Yeah. I guess what I'm saying is exactly that. Public health needs to take a scaffolding approach to its own work and its own engagement with communities as it thinks about evidence and policy and how to communicate that, how to act on that, and then how to back off of it when it needs to.
Wow. Second theory that I have about why you're seeing this the way that you're seeing it, and I think you are like providing a really strong correction to some of the trends. I think we've done a lot of work in innovation. And I said to somebody recently, if you aren't making mistakes, you're not being ambitious enough. You're not aspiring enough, right? Well, when we've worked with organizations around building a culture of innovation, one of the first things is this cannot be a workplace where quote unquote failure is not an option.
Oh, right.
If failure is not an option, then innovation is impossible.
It'll never happen.
Well, it can't.
You've stifled it. Yeah.
Innovation is experimentation.
That's exactly right.
It ain't an experiment if it always works.
You know, we use the example from Google, right? Where the incentive in sort of the innovation arm of Google is not for the team to be successful with their project, but to try to kill the project quickly,
I forgot. Yeah, which is in a sense
Astro
a U-turn.
Teller, right?
Right. Astro Teller's whole
he's got a TED talk on it. But the whole idea is kill the project quickly so that we don't waste time and resources on it. And if it persists, then it might have some merit. There might be something to it. But they actually incentivize and celebrate when they kill a project quickly because the culture is sort of turned on its head.
So not only do we need to create space for U-turns, we need to celebrate U-turns. That's the whole thing. That's
exactly right. You should be elevating leaders and public health professionals who emulate this, who go in and say, you know what? We got this wrong. Let's back up. Let's take a course correction. And we're not talking about backing all the way to start. I want to be clear about that. U-turns aren't about going all the way back to start. We're talking about backing up to the point where you lost us, right? Like so we were on the journey together, and then you kept going where we should have turned.
Oh my goodness. So this reminds me, I was hiking last month it was gorgeous, man. I was in Utah. It was my first time
you sent me
ever
some
being
pictures,
in that state. Y'all, if you live in Utah, you are blessed. It was just gorgeous. But we're on this trail and there's a chance to go left or right. And we went right. And long story short, Wright wasn't a trail. So we were delayed significantly. But it reminds me of a bigger story that you have from many moons ago.
Uh-oh.
As you're talking about how we should be lifting up leaders who emulate this and work with humility and look for opportunities to make U-turns, to course correct, not to go all the way back, but just to course correct, to not be obstinate in these situations. Why don't you tell me about your hiking adventure in the Appalachian Mountains?
Yeah. So like, a lifetime ago in college, had the opportunity to go to Galax, Virginia on fall break with 3 friends. And one of them was an Eagle Scout. And so we had no cell phones. Yeah, right. So we have no cell phones. We just have a map like you did back in the day. And so what do? There's what's there to do. And so adjacent to Galax, there were some hiking trails, we were told.
Sure.
And so we went and found a parking lot, and we hopped out of the car and started on our hike. And a ways into the hike, we're asking the Eagle Scout, hey, where's this go? He's like, oh, no, it loops back around to the parking lot. This is a loop trail. I'm sure of it. And we keep walking, And we're 3 hours in, and it's starting to get dark. We're in flip-flops.
You're 3 hours in, and you have not looped.
We have not looped. We're in flip-flops. We didn't bring water, food. We were just going for a stroll. And so we come to this 2-lane road that the trail crosses, and there's a building there, and it says Ranger Station. So we go and knock on the door, and we're like, hey, does this trail loop back around to the parking lot? And he's like, maybe in Maine there's a parking lot this loops to. You're on the Appalachian Trail, buddy.
My goodness.
What are you doing? Yeah, oh yeah. And so it's dark. We've got to pull a U-turn, right? U-turn and go back.
Wow.
But we need to do it quickly because
because you don't want to do
we don't have food, we don't have water, nothing.
Did you get some water at the Ranger Station?
We did actually, get some water and stuff. And he said, listen, there's a guy nearby here that's still open, and he rents horses and mountain bikes. So one of those might be your fastest option back.
Let me say, you might know how to ride a bike. I've never seen you ride a bike. You might know how to ride a bike. You do not know how to ride a horse.
Yeah, well, that's exactly the feedback we got from the guy that's renting the horses. He said,
because you were like, I'll figure it out.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. He's like, have you ever ridden a horse before? I was like, yeah. He said, were you at a fair and was someone leading the horse? And I was like, maybe. Yeah, that might be my full experience with it. He said, here's a mountain bike. Yeah. So the 4 of us had to rent mountain bikes and bike back to the parking lot and figure out how to get 4 bikes into a sedan. And
somebody facilitated your U-turn. That's what you're trying to say.
That's exactly right. Yes. An authority who was willing to give us grace. And a friendly face along the way who was wise enough to say, I can help you, but not in the way you want.
I mean, the more you think about
it's a good metaphor.
It has some,
It's like,
what are we doing to help people who want to make some ground to get to do that U-turn and make some ground back?
Yeah.
How do we make it easier?
How do we make it easier? And how do we make sure they don't do something ill-advised along the way, like rent a horse?
I mean, I think that's a you thing. Let's be honest.
It probably is a me thing. So yeah, man, that was.
So here's the question I have. Like hearing these stories, thinking about this. What I think is just it is. I mean, your wife is correct. This is parenting genius. If nothing else, listeners, that's really good. By the way, that's not how people parented in the 80s and 90s.
No, it was
not.
A
little different.
It was.
I mean, I'm not calling out our parents, but I was not invited to.
I was not invited to try that again. Yeah.
But I do think it's progress, and this is good. All right, brother. That's been a good word. What about a detour worth taking?
Oh, man. I've got one for you.
Let's hear it.
It's going to be sci-fi again, because this is what I do.
This is where you live.
This is where I live. I love sci-fi. Right. There is a book by Isaac Asimov. It was actually a series of books called Foundation. Apple TV, has turned this into an ongoing series called Foundation. And it is just really addictive because the character development is fantastic. It's a really mind-bending sort of futuristic, like they talk about psychohistory, right? This idea that they can predict the arc of humanity through these sort of mathematical models. I'm just saying, if you're into sci-fi, Foundation on Apple TV, is super cool.
What about if you're not into sci-fi? Is it still cool?
Yes, but No,
I mean, Apple.
I'll be honest with you. It's
you said no.
I'm going to be real. You're not going to like it. You're not going to like it.
Well, there's the honest answer.
I mean, it's not super technical stuff, and there's really good storylines about people and that
That's
sort of
what I was
thing.
expecting
Yeah,
you to say, but
there
you're just
are,
like,
there
no,
are.
it's no good.
But I mean, when you start like talking about light speed ships and these mathematical models and psychohistory and all this sort of stuff, you're just gonna glaze over, and you're gonna be like, bring the fun people back that are, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, you're not gonna like it.
all right, my friends. Thank you for joining us with another episode of Root Notes. We're going to see you up the road.
All right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you.